I thought I knew what pressure was: deadlines, impossible project demands, endless emails. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened the day Alexandra Sterling called me into her office. Alexandra, my boss, was brilliant, commanding, and intimidating in ways that most people never noticed, because she hid it behind charm and elegance. Everyone respected her, some feared her, but no one could deny her presence. I had worked at Sterling & Company for 3 years, slowly climbing the corporate ladder, always careful, polite, and efficient. I prided myself on being reliable, dependable, the kind of employee who followed rules, never spoke out of turn, and never drew attention to himself. But that morning, as I entered Alexandra's office, I realized how fragile that careful existence really was. The office was as I had seen it countless times before: sleek, modern, glass walls letting sunlight flood in, minimalistic furniture polished to perfection. But today it felt different. Today, it felt like a stage. Alexandra was seated behind her mahogany desk, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit that somehow made her look both formidable and regal. Her hair was pulled into a tight, elegant bun, and her gaze met mine with that unnerving combination of amusement and scrutiny that made my stomach twist. "Sit," she commanded, and I obeyed immediately. I could feel the tension building. Alexandra rarely summoned anyone without reason, and usually it was for something urgent, something critical. But today there was something in her eyes that hinted at something far more personal, far more dangerous than a project update or a performance review. "I have a unique assignment for you," she began, her voice calm, controlled, but carrying an edge I couldn't ignore. "It's sensitive, and it requires your absolute discretion." I nodded, curiosity mingling with anxiety. "Of course, Miss Sterling. Anything you need." She leaned back slightly, the soft glow of sunlight behind her casting sharp shadows across her face. "This isn't about work in the traditional sense," she said slowly. "It's personal. And it involves a level of trust and obedience you may not have anticipated." My heart skipped a beat. Personal? Trust? Obedience? I had always known she had a certain dominance in the office, but this was different. She reached into a drawer beside her desk and pulled out a small, elegantly wrapped box. The edges were trimmed in gold, and it seemed to hum faintly, almost as if alive. She placed it on the desk, sliding it toward me with deliberate precision. "Open it," she said. Hands shaking slightly, I untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside was a delicate dress, meticulously folded, accompanied by gloves, heels, and a note in flowing handwriting. I frowned. "What is this?" I asked, my voice betraying both confusion and unease. Alexandra's smile was slow, deliberate, and chilling in its calmness. "This," she said, tapping the dress with a perfectly manicured finger, "is for you." I blinked. "For me, what?" "Miss Sterling, I don't understand." She stood, walking around the desk toward me, her presence suddenly overwhelming. "You will wear it. You will live as my wife, for the duration of this arrangement. You will adopt the persona, the appearance, and the mannerisms. Your obedience is not optional." I choked on a laugh, thinking it must be some elaborate joke. "You're joking, right?" I can't, this is insane." She shook her head, serene, unwavering. "It's not a joke. If you refuse, your position here, and your career, will be jeopardized. But if you accept, you will learn, transform, and serve me fully. You will understand the power of appearances, the elegance of control, and the thrill of secrecy." I felt my pulse spike. The words were impossible. I was a man, a professional, a normal guy, and she wanted me to become her wife. Live as a woman. The thought was overwhelming, absurd, and somehow, despite my fear, my body reacted. A strange, inexplicable shiver ran down my spine. "Is this permanent?" I asked, voice trembling. Alexandra smiled faintly. "Permanent or temporary, depends on your performance and willingness. But know this, the transformation begins the moment you accept. Your body, your voice, your mannerisms, they will align with the role. You will not be able to hide who you are, or who you're becoming." I stared at the dress again, my mind spinning. The soft fabric seemed almost to beckon me, whispering promises I didn't fully understand. My heart hammered. Part of me wanted to run, to reject the entire scenario outright. But another part, a part one barely recognized, felt a strange fascination. What would it feel like to embody someone so completely different? To experience life in a new form? Alexandra extended her hand, graceful and commanding. Do you accept? I hesitated. Every instinct screamed no, yet my curiosity, my hidden desire, tugged at me. Slowly, trembling, I reached out and touched the fabric. Warmth spread instantly through my fingers, up my arms, into my chest. It wasn't just fabric, it was alive, reshaping, guiding. My muscles relaxed, my posture shifted, my voice caught in my throat. Something inside me was changing. Alexandra's eyes glimmered, satisfied. Good. Then the process begins. And with that, my life as I knew it ended. The man I had been, the professional, the normal guy, was fading. In his place, the first traces of a new identity began to emerge. Delicate features, softer movements, an unfamiliar confidence and vulnerability intertwined. I was becoming Alexandra's wife. And I had no idea if I could survive the transformation, or if I even wanted to. The elevator ride from Alexandra's office to the executive apartments was the longest of my life. The little box of clothes rested in my lap like it contained an unexploded bomb. Every floor ding felt like a countdown to something I couldn't stop. I told myself it was temporary. A test, a bizarre loyalty trial, something rich executives did to see how far they could push the people below them. But under the buzzing fluorescent lights, part of me already knew. She wasn't joking, and I had already agreed. When the doors opened, a private corridor stretched before me. Marble floors, silver sconces, a faint scent of jasmine. Alexandra led the way, heels clicking a sharp rhythm that echoed through the hallway. You'll stay here for the duration, she said without turning. Your old apartment has been taken care of. Consider this, relocation. Relocation. As if my entire identity could be moved like a file on a hard drive. Her suite was enormous, 2 stories of glass and soft light overlooking the city. But what caught my attention wasn't the view. It was the vanity table already set up in the bedroom. Brushes, powders, jewelry boxes, and a single mirror framed in gold waited like an altar. Go shower, she instructed. When you come out, you'll find your new self waiting. I stood frozen, box in hand. Miss Sterling, I don't. She turned, and her eyes stopped me cold. Alexandra, she corrected, voice smooth as silk. If you're to be my wife, you'll use my name as one does in private. And right now, I've asked you to shower. I obeyed. Steam fogged the mirror as water cascaded over me. I tried to convince myself this was all some twisted experiment, but the heat seemed to melt more than just the tension in my muscles. When I stepped out, the box of clothes was open on the bed. The dress shimmered faintly under the soft light, and next to it lay a pair of satin heels and delicate underthings I didn't dare touch. But my hands moved anyway. The fabric clung to my skin like it had been made for me. The moment I slipped it over my shoulders, a strange current rippled through me. My reflection blurred, shimmered, then sharpened again. Softer jawline, smoother skin, lashes longer than I remembered. My voice, when I gasped, came out smaller, higher. Alexandra. I called out, panicked. She appeared in the doorway, composed as ever, eyes appraising me like a painter admiring her work. Good, she murmured. The garment recognizes you. It's sinking. Sinking. I stared at her in disbelief. She stepped closer. It adjusts you, mind, body, energy, to fit the role. It's an old artifact from an old deal. Consider it, company property. I wanted to protest, but her presence swallowed every word. Instead, I stood there, trembling. She reached out, tucking a stray lock of hair behind my ear. My skin burned where she touched me. Now, she said softly, walk. What? Walk to the mirror. Look at yourself. I obeyed again, each step uncertain but lighter than expected. The heels clicked softly against the floor. My reflection met my gaze, startled eyes framed by delicate features, a body I half recognized, half feared. My chest rose and fell rapidly, my breath shallow. That's you, Alexandra whispered behind me. Every inch of you belongs to the image you project. The world will believe what it sees. And so will you. Her words sank in. The world would believe. My co-workers, my friends, anyone who saw me would see only what she wanted them to see. For the next few days, my life became a rhythm of lessons. Morning voice training, afternoon posture drills, evening dinners where Alexandra critiqued my smile, my laugh, my ability to hold a glass. I had thought corporate life was demanding. This was something else entirely. Every motion was correction, every slip a test. You hesitate when you speak, she'd say, circling me slowly. Confidence, my dear, is the perfume of power. Even a whisper can command if it's spoken with intent. She never raised her voice. She didn't have to. The transformation wasn't just external. The longer I stayed in her world, the more my mind began to adapt. I'd catch myself humming softly, tilting my head the way she taught me, choosing clothes by instinct rather than defiance. The mirror stopped shocking me. Some nights, it even comforted me. But the fear never left. Each time I glanced at my phone, I thought about the office, the emails, the meetings, my coworkers who probably thought I'd gone on leave. What would they think if they saw me now? Could they even recognize me? One night, Alexandra arranged dinner in the grand hall downstairs. Candlelight flickered across crystal glasses. She was radiant in a dark velvet gown, every movement precise. I sat opposite her, my own reflection shimmering in silver cutlery. "You've adapted faster than I expected," she said, sipping her wine. "Do you know why?" I shook my head. "Because," she said, leaning forward slightly, "part of you wanted this." I froze. "That's not true." She smiled, slow and knowing. "Denial is unbecoming, my dear. You wouldn't have touched that dress if there wasn't curiosity in you. Don't mistake curiosity for weakness, it's the beginning of power." Her words echoed long after the dinner ended. That night, I stood before the mirror again, touching the smooth line of my collarbone, the delicate curve of my shoulder. Maybe she was right. Maybe some small, buried part of me had always wondered what it would feel like to be admired, to be seen this way. The following week, she began to test me outside the apartment. Small errands at her side, shopping, meetings with stylists, quiet dinners at private venues. Each time, she introduced me simply as her spouse. No one questioned it. No one blinked. The magic, or whatever force bound the disguise, made it real to everyone else. Only I knew the truth, and each day it felt more fragile. But not everyone was fooled forever. During one of those dinners, a coworker from my department passed by. He stopped mid-step, brow furrowed. "Excuse me," he said, hesitant. "Forgive me, but you look familiar. Have we met?" My blood turned to ice. Alexandra's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently but firmly. "You must be mistaken," she said smoothly. "My wife has never worked in your firm." He blinked, uncertain, then nodded and moved on. Only when he disappeared did she release my hand. "You see," she murmured. "A single crack in the act, and the illusion collapses. You must never hesitate." That night, I barely slept. I replayed the moment again and again, the recognition in his eyes, the fear in mine. How long before someone else noticed? By the end of the month, I no longer recognized my own handwriting, my own gait, even my own laughter. It wasn't just pretending anymore, it was becoming. Alexandra seemed delighted, but there was something else beneath her approval, something calculating. She wasn't molding a companion, she was testing the limits of control. One evening, as I removed my earrings before bed, she said quietly, "Tomorrow, we're attending the company gala. You will meet everyone again, as my wife. Do not falter. Do not break character." The blood drained from my face. "The company gala? Alexandra, they'll know." "They'll know exactly what I allow them to know," she interrupted. "And so will you. If you want your old life, prove to me that you can live this one flawlessly." When she left the room, I stared at my reflection in the mirror, trembling. The dress hanging on the closet door was shimmering silver, elegant and unmistakably feminine. Tomorrow, every colleague, every manager, everyone who had ever known me as him would see this version of me. The socks, those enchanted, silken things that started all this, glowed faintly on the vanity, as if waiting. I could almost hear them whispering, "One more step. One more night. Then you'll see who you truly are." And deep down, I wasn't sure which terrified me more, being discovered, or never wanting to go back. The night of the company gala arrived like a storm, elegant, glittering, and suffocating. The grand hall sparkled with chandeliers, polished floors reflecting every step, and a soft hum of conversation that made my pulse pound faster with every second. I stood before the mirror one last time, adjusting the silver gown Alexandra had chosen for me. It hugged my body perfectly, accentuating every curve the magical socks had shaped. My hair fell in soft waves, makeup flawless, hands trembling slightly as I gripped the clutch. "Breathe," Alexandra whispered behind me. Her gown shimmered in dark sapphire, her presence radiated control and elegance. "Tonight, you are my wife. The world will see exactly what I intend." I nodded, trying to steady my racing heart. Tonight, I must be perfect, or it's over. The walk from the car to the entrance was a battle against every nerve in my body. Guests turned, eyes following me. I caught glimpses of familiar faces from the office, colleagues who had known me for years. Their expressions ranged from admiration to confusion, but the magic held, the illusion was convincing. Only I knew the truth, and that knowledge made every smile, every step, every tilt of my head a dangerous act of deception. Inside, Alexandra led me through the crowd. Conversations paused subtly, glasses lifted in quiet admiration. I felt the rhythm of the socks guiding me, pushing my posture upright, my steps delicate, my movements deliberate. It was intoxicating and terrifying. Then it happened, a familiar voice from behind. "Is that Ryan?" I froze. A coworker, one who had seen me countless times in the office, had spotted me. Panic shot through me, the illusion threatening to crack. My lips parted, trying to form words, but Alexandra's hand pressed lightly against my back, steadying me. "Not tonight," she whispered, a hint of steel under the softness. Smile, move, and no hesitation. I forced a serene expression, letting the elegance take over as fear clawed at my chest. The coworker blinked, hesitation flickering in his eyes. I thought I knew you." Alexandra stepped forward smoothly. "Meet my wife," she said, voice fluid, confident. "You've heard about her, haven't you?" The words hung in the air like a blade. My pulse raced. The coworker's brow furrowed, then he nodded, seemingly convinced. Just a slip of doubt, I told myself. Nothing more. The evening continued, a delicate dance of conversation, laughter, and careful attention. Every word I spoke, every laugh I forced, was measured and precise. The socks pulsed faintly, nudging me toward elegance with every subtle motion. I had learned to embody the persona fully, but the strain was relentless. And then, the unexpected. From across the room, someone I didn't recognize approached. Tall, composed, with an air of authority. They stopped in front of me, eyes narrowing slightly. Every muscle in my body tensed. Who were they? Why did they look at me like they could see everything? "Quite the transformation," the stranger said smoothly, voice low enough for only me to hear. "I wonder, how long before she slips?" I swallowed hard. Alexandra's hand found mine, grounding me. "Ignore them," she murmured. "Do not falter." But the stranger didn't leave. Their gaze lingered, calculating, as if studying every detail of me. My posture, my movements, my voice. The tension coiled inside me like a spring, threatening to snap. The socks pulsed stronger now, almost insistently, reminding me to maintain composure, elegance, perfection. My breaths were shallow. Every step I took toward Alexandra felt like walking a tightrope above a pit of sharp, unseen blades. A waiter passed, carrying a tray of champagne. I reached for a glass, my hand trembling slightly. One misstep could expose me. I caught the glass, the crystal cold against my palm, and held it with the poise I had been drilled in for weeks. Alexandra's eyes flicked toward mine, approving. But the stranger leaned closer. "You're holding it wrong," they said softly. "Too stiff. Relax." The words, innocent as they seemed, sent shockwaves through me. My fingers curled instinctively, the glass tilting. A bead of sweat ran down my spine. Alexandra's grip tightened imperceptibly. The crowd around us was oblivious, or pretending to be. But I felt exposed, every heartbeat echoing in my chest. My mind spun with the tension of dual identities. The man I was, the persona I had been forced into, the elegant wife everyone believed me to be. Every second, I teetered on the edge of exposure. And then, disaster, a slight misstep on the polished floor. One heel caught a corner of the rug. My body jerked, balance faltering. The glass tipped. Champagne splashed, narrowly missing a nearby guest. Gasps rippled through the room. I froze, frozen in both fear and instinct. Alexandra's hand pressed against my back again, guiding, stabilizing. "Recover," she whispered. "Smile." I forced a delicate laugh, stepped back gracefully, adjusting the gown. My reflection in the polished floor was a perfect princess, but beneath the surface, Ryan screamed. Panic, embarrassment, exhilaration, all collided in a storm of conflicting emotions. The stranger smiled faintly, almost imperceptibly. "Interesting," they murmured. "She's learning." Every nerve in me screamed. This was a test, a challenge I could fail at any moment. I realized that the gala was more than a social event. It was a battlefield, a crucible designed to push me to the limits of identity, secrecy, and endurance. Then, Alexandra leaned close, whispering, "Remember why you're here. Every gesture, every glance, every word, they are your armor. And your weapon." A surge of determination coursed through me. I straightened, lifted my chin, and walked forward again, heels clicking softly but with purpose. The socks hummed faintly, almost approvingly, but the stranger had not left. They stepped forward, deliberately, cutting through the crowd. Their eyes never left mine. "You may think you're ready," they said, voice like ice, "but one mistake, and everyone will know." The tension coiled tighter, suffocating. My heart pounded in my ears. Every guest was a potential witness. Every movement mattered. The line between fear and exhilaration blurred. A sudden shift. The chandelier above wavered slightly, swaying as if a storm had passed through. Crystal droplets caught the light, glittering ominously. My heel caught again. A small gasp escaped my lips. Alexandra's grip was firm, grounding me. "Do not falter," she whispered. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, held me in place. And then the stranger smiled, a slow, knowing smile that froze every muscle in my body. "How long before she cracks?" The room held its breath. Every eye, every subtle murmur, every movement was a test. My dual identity, Ryan and the wife, balanced on a knife's edge. Every heartbeat threatened exposure. Every step demanded perfection. And just as I took a deep breath to steady myself, a hand reached toward my arm from behind the stranger. A gasp echoed through the room. My pulse spiked. Eyes widened. Everything, the gala, the magic, the persona, the fear, collapsed into a single, heart-stopping moment of uncertainty. Would I survive the night? Could I maintain the illusion? Or would this final challenge expose me completely? And in that suspended instant, the lights flickered once, twice. Cut to black. The gala had reached its peak, chandeliers glittering, music swelling, conversations humming like an unseen current. I stood by Alexandra's side, smiling, poised, every movement measured and deliberate. On the outside, I was the perfect wife, the flawless partner. On the inside, Ryan was screaming. Every heartbeat was a countdown, every breath a test. And then I saw them again, the stranger from earlier. Their eyes locked onto me from across the hall, unwavering, unblinking. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. My fingers clenched the clutch, my body stiffened, and the socks pulsed softly, almost urging me to maintain composure. Alexandra noticed my tension. Her hand brushed mine briefly, grounding, steadying, commanding. "Remember," she whispered, "you are my wife. You control what they see." I nodded, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. My reflection in the polished floor caught my gaze, a perfect facade. Elegant, feminine, controlled. And yet beneath it all, Ryan's panic thrummed like a hidden drumbeat, threatening to break free. The stranger began walking toward me. Every step measured, deliberate. Every guest around us seemed oblivious, but I felt exposed, naked beneath their scrutiny. Alexandra's eyes followed their approach, sharp and calculating. Her grip on my hand tightened imperceptibly, a silent warning. "You're far from the end of your trial," the stranger said softly, stopping just a few feet away. Their voice carried through the tense silence. "How long before she slips? How long before everyone sees who she really is?" I swallowed hard. Could I maintain the illusion under this pressure? My chest tightened. My heels clicked against the marble as I took a careful step forward, heart pounding in my ears. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the far end of the hall. One of the chandeliers above had shifted slightly, sending a few crystals tumbling. Guests gasped, and all eyes flicked toward the source of the noise. My heel caught the edge of the carpet. For a split second, I faltered, and the clutch nearly slipped from my trembling hands. Alexandra's sharp gaze found mine. "Focus," she said, voice low but commanding. "Do not falter." I straightened, lifting my chin, forcing my smile wider, praying the moment had passed unnoticed. But when I glanced at the stranger, they were smiling, a slow, knowing, almost predatory smile that made my stomach drop. I felt the socks pulse harder than ever. My body had adjusted perfectly to the feminine posture, the elegance, the poise, but the intensity of this moment pushed me closer to the edge. One wrong move, one subtle slip, and everything could unravel. And then a hand touched my arm, light, deliberate. My pulse hit overdrive. I turned slightly, meeting the gaze of the stranger. Their eyes glittered with an unreadable expression. "The world will know soon enough," they whispered. A shiver ran down my spine. Could I escape exposure? Could I survive the night without my secret being revealed? My mind raced through every possible scenario, every exit, every lie I could tell. But the truth was terrifyingly simple. Tonight, I was trapped in this role, in this identity, in this spellbinding illusion. And the stranger had the power to break it at any moment. Alexandra leaned close, her lips brushing my ear. "Remember, you are my wife. You are perfect." And yet, her eyes gleamed with a mysterious intensity. Even perfection can be tested. The room seemed to shrink around me. Every sound was amplified, glasses clinking, whispers, the faint hum of music. I could feel the duality of my life pressing against me. The man I had been, the wife I had become, the secrets hidden beneath layers of elegance. Every heartbeat felt like a drum roll, counting down to the moment when everything would either hold or shatter. The stranger took a step closer, eyes locked on mine. "One more choice," they said, voice low and deliberate. "Will you continue pretending, or will you show the world who you really are?" My breath caught. My mind screamed for escape, but Alexandra's hand gripped mine firmly. The socks pulsed rhythmically, guiding, forcing, commanding. I was a perfect wife in appearance, in posture, in gesture, but inside, the turmoil was unbearable. The chandelier above swayed again, crystals catching the light like icy daggers. My heel caught once more on the carpet, my body jerking slightly. Gasps echoed. Guests turned. The stranger's smile widened. And then, darkness. The lights flickered violently. Music screeched to a halt. A hush fell over the hall. Every eye turned toward the source. The suspense was suffocating. Every instinct screamed at me. This is it. The moment of exposure. The moment of truth. Alexandra's gaze met mine one last time. Calm, controlled, unyielding. "Do not falter," she whispered. And in that suspended, frozen instant, everything hung in the balance. The identity I had once known, the persona I had been forced to embody, the secret that could destroy everything. Then, cut to black.